I'm back! Naku, na-miss ko. Akala ko, nahiwalay na ako sa inyong feeling. I'm back! Anyway, so the third reason to protect the good name and repute of the school, as I was trying to explain, the conduct, the reputation, or what you call the standard of morality and decency of your students exhibited outside campus reflects on you. It always gives the perception that you've been involved in for the formation of those conduct, the standard of decency and morality. And that is why you need to protect yourself by insisting on your school rules. So as the Supreme Court again declared, slide please, in the case again of Angeles versus Season, the school's obligation to discipline is to protect the good name and reputation of the school. So these are the three reasons why you need discipline. Now, the issue is, okay, it is necessary not just to establish, maintain order in the campus, formation of character, to protect our reputation. Okay, but we insist. So we insist now on applying this to the students while they are out. So, papasok ngayon yung mga magulang. Lalo na yung mga ibang magulang natin na taliwas ang mundo, taliwas ang pananaw. Sasabihin nila, oy, wala na kayong pakialam sa aming mga anak habang sila ay nasa piling namin. Disiplinahin nyo lang mang sila. You insist on your regulations, on your standards of decency, morality, and conduct only when they are inside. Pero pag nasa amin yan, kami naman na ang bahala sa kanwal. Taliwas. Iba ang kanilang pagpapalaki. Oh. Pwede ba nating ipilit pa itong otoridad natin? So, slide please. The question now is, all right, how far does the school authority, should it extend outside? So, obviously, sagot ng Supreme Court. Kaya pa yung mga magulang sinasabi, ay, hindi na kayo dito. Outside na kayo dito. Mr. Father, cannot insist. Ito ang isagot nyo sa kanila. Mga nanay, tatay, slide please. Ayon po sa Korte Suprema. Ayon sa Korte Suprema. O kaya sabihin ninyo, ayon po kay Ulan. O, ipakita niyo itong video. Sabi ng Korte Suprema, slide please. See, it tells us, slide please. Slide. All right. It is better view instances when the school might be called to exercise. So, in case of violation of school policies, regulations occurring in connection with school-sponsored activities of campus. And number two, take note, it's very broad. In case where the misconduct of the student involves his status as a student or affects the good name and reputation of the student. What do we mean by involving the status of the student? You have to realize that as soon as you admit your student, he is a member of the school community. And a member is expected to cope with your rules and regulations, particularly insofar as the standards of morality, decency, and good conduct. And this duty as a member of the school community is not just expected of them while they are inside the school campus and within school hours, but even beyond or outside the school campus. On summer vacation, on Christmas break, on the weekends, or as soon as classes end, are they still obligated to observe the school? Yes, because that necessity of its continued application on them as the objective is formation of character and to protect the good name. Hindi naman pwede. Habang sa loob lang, saka namin susundin niya. Paglabas namin, iba na kami pagkatao. Mga demonyo na. Hindi. Pag sa loob lang, santo. Pag sa labas, demonyo. Hindi po pwede yan. So, the parents must be told. Kayo ang nagdesisyon na i-enroll ninyo sa amin ang mga anak ninyo. Kailangan intindihin ninyo na hindi lamang namin sila tuturuan ng English, History, Arithmetic, kundi ipipilit po namin ang aming regulasyon ukol sa moralidad, sa decency, and good conduct. Pag hindi po kayo sangayon yan at gusto ninyong iba, ay huwag na po kayong mag-enroll sa amin. So that is why, slide please, sabi ng Supreme Court, okay, slide, when students misbehave outside the campus and misconduct complained of directly affects the offender's status as a suitable member of the school community, there is no reason why schools may not impose disciplinary sanctions on them. Please remember and tell your parents that at the moment that students, their children are admitted, they are a member of the school community, they continue to be members of the school community until only when they graduate, they finish their course, or they officially withdraw and transfer elsewhere. But once you admit them from the beginning, let's say grade 1 or first year or senior high school or college, first semester, tuloy-tuloy ang membership nila as long as they have not finished the course or officially withdrawn. That is why during sem breaks, during summer vacation, during Christmas break, during weekends, they are members and they are by law obligated to follow the school rules and regulations. So, this is therefore what is important for us to understand and for parents to be able to know. So this is the reason why I will stress again that this year, when our students, pupils will be far away from our physical embrace, they would still have to be the subject of our school discipline. The rules and regulations, particularly those that are crafted specifically to obtain what you call standards of morality, decency, and good conduct. So, I have now given you the reason, the legal reason of discipline. Now, we go to some strategies. Paano ngayon, ulan? Ang hirap naman yan. Hirap na nga kaming maintindihan itong Zoom na ito. Problema pa namin ngayon yung pag-disiplina. Alright, slide please. So we go now to the strategies to maintain and still discipline. Kailangan ita. The reason why I had to first stress to you the importance, the necessity, and the legal duty is because whether you like it or not, I have made clear. So discipline is not a right. It is a duty. Kailangan ninyo gampanan. Sister, kailangan mo gampanan yan. Hindi pwedeng pabayaan ninyo lamang po. So, what are these basic strategies? Okay. Of course, this is from my own personal experience and on the basis of some interviews and of course, books that I have read on this matter. Particularly on a book that I shared with my daughter entitled Formation of Character in Distance Education. And I find them to be very practical and hopefully effective. So, let us go through them one by one. First and foremost, itong kailangan ninyo. Slide, please. Ensure parents are aware of the school rules on conduct, of decency, and morals. Now, karamihan ng mga magulang ninyo, in the past, even in the present, they just take cognizance of the name of the school. Oh, maganda, Catholic school. Oh, sige, pasok na. Without even trying to go through the school rules and regulations. This time, it is important that you make them aware of it. I will give you the reason why. So slide, please. So to ensure parents are aware, parents need to required to apply the rules. The reason why they have to know this time, hindi na excuse. Nasabi, I'm too busy. Anyway, si teacher naman na mag-a-apply yan. Hindi, ngayon hindi pwede yan. Kailangan intindihin mo. Kung pwede, interviewin nyo muna. Mag-recitation kayo ng mga school rules. Binasa nyo na po ba, misis? Bakit? Because of your absence physically, it is them whom you would rely on. The application of the standards. There is no other way. This is the best way. So slide, please. So, this is for that. See? You tell them, bakit pa kami makikialam yan? Oh, bibigyan ko na naman kayo ng legal basis. So, pwede niyong ipilit sa mga magulang. Sabihin magulang, wala kang pakialam dyan. No. You tell your parents, alabi po ng Korte Suprema ayon po sa batas, parents are members of a school community. That is in Section 6 of Batas Pambansa 232. So they are not strangers to the school. They are part of the school. And because of this legal membership in the school community, sinabi po ng Korte Suprema, the right to establish and enforce reasonable rules and regulations extends as well to parents, as parents are under a social and moral, if not legal obligation, individually and collectively to assist and cooperate with the school. So, this is the legal basis. So, hindi nyo lang pakikiusapan yung magulang. Nasabi, ma'am, Mrs. pwede po. Hindi! Sabi nyo, Mrs., legal po na obligasyon ito na suportahan ninyo kami, tulungan po ninyo kami. At ang unang gagawin nyo po ay basain ng maigi kung ano yung school rules and regulations namin. Now, it is also in this case, slide please. It is in this case, sabi ng Supreme Court, that encourages the school to formulate and adopt this collaborative effort with the parents of its pupils to instill discipline within their household. You see? So, the importance of trying with them, because most of the time during this pandemic, they will not be in the school. They will be at home. So, yan ang importante. Pilitin ninyong basahin, intindihin, alamin. Dahil kapag may taliwas silang pamamaraan sa palaki, sabihan nyo na. Let's give you an illustration. Say, you are really a Catholic institution that would only admit students who are of the Catholic faith. That is important for them to know. That means that if one way or the other, the parents will try to indoctrinate them with another religion, it could be the basis, therefore, for some action on the part of the school. If, for example, you are insisting on really that high standard of morality, which is expressed in the provision, prohibiting premarital sex. But here is a student who belongs to a family that is so liberal in aspects of this. Sige na, live-in ka na, sige na, sige. Yan, subukan mo muna boyfriend mo. Ayan, sige, live-in muna tayo. Ay, hindi pwede yan. They must think twice before they continue on with the relationship with you. They have no choice but to embrace your own rules. Pwede naman sila mamili eh. Hindi naman sila pinilit. So, important here, this is a very important legal issue. Okay. What must, slide please, what must your rules contain? Ano yung rules? Okay. I know many of you do have it already. Yun sa manual yan. So, yun ang ipapabasa mo sa kanila. Because it is necessary that it should contain the code of discipline, yung enumeration ng mga offenses na yan. Ibig sabihin, yung mga offenses or what you call now acts or omissions that you consider not in accord with your rules in so far as the effort of transforming them into better persons. Not just for, maintaining order in the school campus because wala nga sila, but more of those rules that are crafted specifically to transform them into better persons, into the hope of them becoming canonized saints. So, and penalties. Many of you may not really agree with me, but are still insisting on, imposition of penalties. But sadly, I still have to consider imposition of penalties. So, and secondly, slide please, shall be because the student can be held responsible only for the cost as defined in the printed rules and regulations of the school or the manual. So what I'm trying to point out here to you is you have to be able to provide the parents this handbook that enumerates the offenses for them to understand that if they are committed, it could be the basis for a sanction. And the sanction must be insisted on. And the parents would have to report. Then ang hirap dito, because obviously, it is quite difficult for a parent to report to you something that may have been committed against the school rules by their children or by their child. But asahan nyo na lang good faith. But it's not only the parent, but of course, surrounding area. But important is the printed rules and regulations. Okay. So, ang tanong ngayon dito is, so kailangan i-enumerate ninyo. So, pag kunyari, nagnakaw, yan, the same thing. So, the parents will know this act or that act. But let's just give you some issues. What if, slide please. Okay, slide please. What if the misconduct is not defined and penalized by written school rules? Could it still be considered as a basis for a disciplinary action? Nakaligtaan ninyo na ilagay yun. Pero it is something that is not acceptable. It is not something that should be allowed of the student to commit or to omit. Pero wala doon. Okay. So, here is the issue. This boils down now to a new Supreme Court ruling regarding issue of morality. This is where we need to understand fully what the Supreme Court said about this matter. Because putting the exact charge, the omission or commission, and imposing a sanction is part of substantial due process. A requirement before there could be any imposition of a sanction on a student. Kailangan nila malaman. Yan ang, hindi ba, that is one of the issues that we are trying to, what you call the attention of the constitutionality of the anti-terror bill, because there appears to be some provisions that, iniisip mo pala ang naggagawin mo na, pwede ka nang ikulong. So pag naisip niya na, iniisip mo mag-rebel at kulungin ka na. I remember Ninoy Aquino's story, which could now be applied to the anti-terrorist bill. Sabi niya nga yung batas ni Marcos daw noon, iniisip niya palang halikan si Imelda, huhulihin na raw siya. Hindi naman pwede yun. There has to be. And it should be based on a provision itself. So the issue here, slide please. So the issue here, slide, is the student's liability shall not be confined to the enumeration because some may be generally worded to encompass a number of related wrongdoing. What I'm trying to point out here, it does not need to be really explicit, hindi karamihan. For example, murder. How about kidnapping? How about rape? Do you find them in your student handbook? I do not think so. I do not believe that you enumerated all this criminal acts. But all this are considered to be wrongdoings that could be the subject of school discipline. So paano? Hindi nakalagay yung murder doon. Hindi nakalagay yung terrorism doon. Can we still subject them? Iyan ang sagot. The MORFE, the Manual of Regulation for Private Higher Education, provides for the explanation. It will not be. But this has to be interpreted in this way. Okay. This is where you need, slide please. On the basis of this answer of the MORFE, this is where you need to classify the students' offenses into two types. The first is those that are generally accepted acts or omissions that are subject to disciplinary action and imposition of sanctions. Meaning to say, these are the acts or omissions irrespective of where the student may be enrolled in a Catholic school, in a secular school, in a public school, kasalanan yan. Okay? Example, murder, physical injuries, rape. Yan ang mga kinukonsider na generally what you call accepted omissions or acts that can justify the sanctions. But there is the other, acts or omissions by certain school rules, conduct, and standards of morality particularly would be the subject to disciplinary action and imposition of sanctions. Here, the act or omission of the student, okay, will only be considered for disciplinary action based on the nature, the character, the mission, objective of the school. So here, you will see that there are certain acts, particularly disregarding standards of morality of a Catholic institution, which may not necessarily be more immorality when it comes to a public or secular school. Now, why is it necessary for us to have this distinction? Kailangan ninyo kilatisin yung inyong enumeration. Now, why? All right. Answer. Slide, please. The answer is, okay, for students to be disciplinarily charged for said offenses, all right, the first, yung una, yung generally accepted offenses, acts, need not be expressed. That's why all criminal acts, those that are defined and penalized by the revised penal code and other criminal laws existing, do not need to be enumerated by your manual. Hindi, dadami, kakapala manual ninyo. Hindi na yan. They can now be covered by the general statement of a gross misconduct or grave immorality. So, pag nakipagsuntukan ang estudyante ninyo sa labas, nakipagbubukan at nakapagsakit, physical injuries, gross misconduct na yun. Pag nagnakaw, gross misconduct na yun. Pag nang-rape, pag may asawa na ng kabit, immorality na yun. But when it comes to the latter, that could be considered only the subject of the disciplinary action. That is where you need to identify them expressly and penalize. So kailangan ninyo This is the consequence. Take note of this. I know you have heard this already from lectures, but I will just restate it again. Slide, please. This is the consequence of the ruling ng Supreme Court. Slide, please. So student disciplinary powers should be made known, and secondly, it should be made known to the students at the time of enrollment and to the parents this time. And there be proof that the students have been appraised of such policies. So there has to be knowledge. Okay. Now, why is it important for me to stress this? Okay. This is the consequence of the case of Lewis versus St. Scholastica College, West Grove. Slide, please. Yeah. January. Although this involved an employee, but its application may well be adapted for students. The issue here is, may Catholic schools still discipline students or deny admission, readmission on such grounds such as premarital sex, homosexuality, etc.? Now, why did I make mention of this? But there are others. There are several others. Because you will have to understand that particularly premarital sex, it is not considered to be immoral based on civil or secular standards. Babae, lalaki, both of age, do not have any of the disqualifications from them entering into a valid marriage. There is nothing in civil law, criminal law, or other types of law that declares such union as immoral. Kaya nga, even the family code provides for the property relation between parties who are cohabiting together outside wedlock. Yung tinatawag common law husband and wife. So, pero on Catholic doctrines, iba yan. So also with homosexuality. So ang issue natin, what happened in this Leos? Exactly premarital sex. One employee got pregnant out of wedlock, was discovered by the good sister, found it to be contrary to the standard of Catholic morality, she was terminated. To end the whole story short, what did the Supreme Court say? The Supreme Court annulled determination and required the school to readmit or to re-employ the employee. Why? Because Saint Sco was not able to show from their existing manuals the express provision conceiving premarital sex as grave immorality. Therefore, sabi ng Supreme Court, we had to rely on the secular standard where such act would not constitute as grave immorality. Secular standard kasi ang ginamit ng Korte Suprema dahil nga hindi nakalagay sa handbook ng Saint Sco that premarital sex based on a Catholic moral standard is immoral. So, how do you go around this? Ayan, ang answer is, yes, you can still, notwithstanding the declaration of the Supreme Court in that case of Lewis. Slide, please. What are we supposed to do? So this is very important for those who may not have adopted it yet. The school rules that prohibits, restricts, restrains, or limits students' legal rights. Kasi having sexual intercourse, if they are already of age and they do not have any disqualifications, it's a matter of right that is in pursuit of happiness. Secular standard, but legal may be bad. So in order for you to curtail it, in order for you to prohibit it, you must be able to point out a rational basis. Ibig sabihin, why do you need to restrict these rights of students? Because you need it to achieve a particular objective of the institution. And in our case, religion. I hope it is clear. That is why, slide please, okay, the manuals that you will provide your parents and your students, that they must read and understand, must clearly declare you are a Catholic school. The philosophy and the mission statement must clearly articulate it. And as a Catholic school, slide please, you must declare therefore the contract of enrollment, either in the contract of enrollment or in the manual of students, say, following provision or anything similar to it. Kailangan clear yan. Conduct prohibited by Catholic morals such as, but not limited to, extramarital sexual affairs, sexual relations between unmarried persons, disgraceful and shameless public displays of intimacy, homosexual acts, etc. Now, why did I choose this? Because I believe, based on secular standards, these are not immoral acts. And if you would just rely on the secular standards, you cannot, therefore, subject the student to disciplinary action. But on the basis of the Catholic moral standards, these are abhorrent, unacceptable. And for the children to know that they are not what a Catholic individual should adhere or practice, you must prohibit it. But these are the things that you need to express. Yeah, that is already a template. Public displays that will constitute ground for dismissal, deny admission, readmission, or whatever sanction you intend to impose. The point is, the manual must expressly provide for the same. Slide, please. So, what do we therefore learn from this? Student manual, so ulitin ko lang, will now must have this provision. Students are forbidden from engaging in extramarital affairs, sexual relations, unmarried, homosexual, scandalous and shameless public displays of intimacy. Any of the foregoing, as well as similar to them, shall constitute grounds. These need to be made known to parents in a printed document which you will provide for them or that you will send them through internet. Kailangan nila malaman yan. Hindi nila pwedeng igiit na wala nang pakialam ang paaralan kung anuman ang buhay ng kanilang mga anak sa labas ng paaralan. No, because we need to achieve the objective, formation of character, transforming into Catholic saints. Slide, please. So, there. To make it very important, therefore, so just a reminder, student disciplinary policies should be made known to parents. And there is proof that the student parents have been appraised of such policies. So I hope that is clear. I hope you will be able to do that. That is, of course, if you still insist on this standard that I, for one, will really expect you as a Catholic educator. I will never allow my children to be enrolled in a Catholic institution that does not embrace such standard of morality. And for you to be able to force it on the children enrolled, you need to expressly provide for that. So that is the first. So let's recapitulate. You need to appraise them. And I have instructed you what this manual of rules and regulation must contain. All right. Now, second. So we go now to the second. Uh, slide, please. Sorry. Second, encourage teachers to set clear basic ground rules. Now, this time, these are more applicable during online sessions mismo. What I'm trying to point out here is that the need to discipline is not just limited times when the teachers or school are conducting online classes. No. But as I have made clear, it should still be applied to them even before or after, inside or outside the school campus. Generally, outside ngayon. So, pagkatapos ng kanilang klase, kailangan i-maintain pa rin. Kaya, sino ngayon ang aasa to oversee the adherence or the following of the students of these rules? Hindi kaya yung magulang, kaya yun ang first. Okay. So, so far as teachers are concerned, the only opportunity now would be when they are now actually online. Alright. So, ito dapat ang gawin ng mga teachers ninyo. Ito kasi ang ginagawa ng aking magandang asawa when it comes to training our children's choir. And I've learned so much from her. Encourage teachers to set clear basic ground rules. Now, stick to the essentials. Okay. Here also, dito kayo papasok as teachers, lalo na sa basic education. Remember to stress it. You are not just teachers. You are supposed to be parents. The family code states that you are to exercise special parental authority and responsibility. So, ang pagtingin ninyo sa bata, hindi lamang estudyante ninyo, kundi anak. Therefore, being a teacher does not just require a skill in regard to the delivery of the competencies, but you must have the heart and soul to look at each and every student, kahit dyan lang yan sa gallery ng Zoom ninyo, as your own. Mahal ninyo. So, in that context, what do you expect? Slide, please. Slide, please. Give reassurance and grace during this difficult time. Show empathy. Kaya it has always been said by the late Education Secretary Lourdes Quezon that, you know, if you do not have that capacity to look at every student as your own, anak mo, eh huwag kang mag-teacher. Mag-abogado ka. Gusto mo. O better, mag-congressman ka. Ayan. Umapit ka rin sa denial ng ABS-CBN ng franchise. Ano yun? Oh, may natawa. Oh, doon ka. Kasi doon walang naku, baka anyway, all right. So here, it's not just imposition of punishment or unreasonably strict guidance. So, you have to therefore remember this. Slide, please. Strike a balance between maintaining order and, of course, navigating the challenges of learning from home. Sana, if the children are with you in the classroom, you know already what to do. But this time, you need to be innovative. You need to think that you always have to consider them in front of you. They should always behave the way they are in front of you. So it's a difficult task, but you need to do it. Remember, to discipline is not just an authority or a right, it is a duty. So you have to do this. So what therefore are the things that you should consider? Okay. Slide, please. So examples of basic ground rules during online. Mute. Ayan. At least, yan lang. Mute self when someone else is talking. Ayan. Pag merong mag-butt in dyan, sabihan nyo kagad. But in a very compassionate, motherly or fatherly way. Oh. Now, you have to insist that the video on is, the video is on whenever able. Okay? Because we really have to understand. Sometimes, the Wi-Fi connection may not that be effective and consistent. And no distracting, not distracting others. So, siyempre, lalo na naku, kaya talagang dapat dito, that's why I agree with the suggestion that we have to limit now the number of students. To lessen it from the number that we usually adopt in the years past. So if you were then having 35, I think it would be really important that you try to reduce it to at least 20 or 25. It will mean, of course, additional expenses. But that is to ensure education. Kaya lang talagang maggastos. It's always been said, quality education is expensive, mga administrator. Kaya to be effective for teachers, I think it is proven that the smaller number, the better. Siyempre, gastusan ninyo yan. So, medyo pasantabing muna yung kita. Mag-isip na lang kayo. Luto na lang kayo ng putupaw. Mag-delivery home. Pero try to still maintain. Nasabi nga may pa-comedy lang akong konti, meron daw isang tawag nito, may edad na senior citizen na babae, nagpunta daw sa isang tawag nito, dermatologist, doktora, nagsabi, kung gusto niya anong tawag nito, paritoke ng mukha. So, yan, sabi, gano'n, gaganda ka, magiging kamukha mo si Alice Dixon, kung sino dyan na artista. Tapos magkano po yan? Ay, ito po ang halaga niyan. Ay, aabot po ng kalahating 500,000. Sabi ngayon nung senior citizen na babaeng beauty. Ay, ang mahal naman, wala bang mas mura? Ay, sabi nung dermatologist, binuksan yung drawer, nagdampot ng chupon, sinaksak sa bibig. Ayan po, chupon, 30 pesos lang yan. Mura lang yan. Mukha ka ng bata. So anyway, pinatawak lang kayo dahil baka inaantok na kayo dyan. Andito pa po ako. So, what is important here? Practice of kindness and respect. Alright, slide please. Here. Slide please. Alright. Now, but there would always be the situation where the student may really be into a misbehavior where sometimes it will trigger already the necessity of what you call a disciplinary action. Pwede siguro kung mag-mute, pero pag merong mga kababalaghan ng ginagawa ang mga estudyante, for example, nanluloko, for example, habang nag-lecture ka, nagtitiktok dyan, at hindi mo mapagsabihan, there is already the necessity for you to impose discipline. So, paano mo ngayon gagawin yan? Now, I want you to remember this, please. So, usually, it will just be verbal or sa message ninyo. Please, corporal punishment is prohibited. So, I want to point out, if you need to discipline, you must avoid corporal punishment. All right. Slide, please. Why it is prohibited? Because, slide, please, it is in the family code. You will not be allowed to use. Now, those exercising parental authority, these are the teachers. So, prohibited yan. Because it is prohibited by 233 of the family code. Slide, please. All right. Delikado. If you use it, there's a criminal liability, child abuse, 47610. Kaya delikado talaga ang corporal punishment. Siguro ngayon lang nag-iisip na kayo, bakit nag-discuss yan ng unang corporal punishment na magkahiwalay nga kami? Pwede ba naman maggamit yan ng corporal punishment because of our concept of corporal punishment which involve physical contact to inflict pain. Hindi po ba? I want you to be aware of this. Why? Because, slide please. Because corporal punishment can it be committed online. Take note. Slide please. DepEd number 40, 2012 defines corporal punishment as refers to a kind of punishment or penalty imposed which is carried out to or inflicted for the purpose of discipline, and then it enumerates specific acts, and among the enumeration it provides, slide please, okay, verbal abuse or assaults, intimidation or threat of bodily harm, swearing or cursing, ridiculously degrading the child, forcing a child to wear. Now, all this you may commit even online. That's why I want you to be aware that these are corporal punishments. And if committed, as I have mentioned, results even to a criminal offense. Pag napamura kayo dyan, pag na-insulto niyo yung bata online, pag nakapadala kayo ng message, pag pinersan ninyo ang bata online na magbad dyan, or to do something ridiculous, these are now corporal punishments. And therefore, you should avoid. So you have to think now of other means of enforcing sanctions. Because we will just have to consider that passive discipline, for me, is not sufficient. There are times, oftentimes, when you need now something more forceful in order to instill that discipline on children. But I want you to remember that these ways that are generally expected are considered to be prohibited. So please be careful. Slide, please. Slide, please. So, okay? All right. Now, we go now to the third, establishment of the homeschool partnership. Homeschool partnership, I know, is very strong in many institutions when it comes to academics, competencies, where the parents, especially those who would really want to personally oversee the education, pinakikialaman yung mga assignment na yan, meron pa lang, sila ang gumagawa ng mga assignment na yan. Yeah, that's very good. But this time, this partnership between the school and the home should also now gear towards discipline. So this is in relation to the first, letting the parents know well, because it is their duty to involve themselves in assisting the school in regard to that objective of formation of character. So we have therefore to also not just get in touch with the students, but it is important, slide please, that you also constantly get in touch with the parents. Kumusta ninyo? Oh, Mrs., kumusta po kayo? Oh, yung anak niyo po si Pedro, online classes kami, pero medyo inaantok, ma'am. Baka naman po napuyat ng kalalaro ka, papanood ng Netflix. Medyo alalayan niyo po. Mrs., kanina po si Maria, parang walang suot. medyo malaswa po yung hitsura niya. Turuan niyo po ng kung paano siya dapat lumabas. So, there should be regular check-in through phone calls or Viber. But that is very important. Be in touch with the parents. Always remind them of the legal responsibility and the necessity of involving themselves to instill discipline on their children while they are at home. And this rules would have to be those that are provided for or insisted no less than by the school itself. Slide, please. So, slide, please. So, be collaborative and coordinate as much as possible while being considerate at the same time. So, sending learning plans, padala nyo, establish regular, you see, confident that the student talk you home. I mean, mas alam nyo pa yan eh. Kasi you are really there actually doing it. But these are the ways I feel should be adapted. Slide, please. And I learned, and as my wife also would testify, sharing of feedback to the parents. And when you come to the sharing, it is not just referring to giving the numerical evaluation, but to provide a descriptive feedback of their children's conduct. Importante po yan. Pag nakapansin ninyo na yung isang anak medyo parating inaantok, parating distracted, mayat tumatayo, mayat kung ano ang ginagawa. Kaya talagang dapat konti lang because the teacher involved must be able to always scan through what the students are now at the moment doing. So pag malaking-malaki yan, mahirap po ma-scan through yan. So these are just some of the ways I suggest. What I'm trying to point out is discipline is necessary. And in so doing, you need to consider, therefore, the school-home collaboration. Because the parents will now play a very important, vital role in insisting on the application still of the school rules and regulations. So that is insofar as discipline is concerned. Maybe you have some issues, some concerns. Later, we just do hope that we still have the time. But the second part of my lecture, as assigned to me, would be the basic safety guidelines. So, slide, please. So the basic safety guidelines while online. I am not a computer master or for that matter. Therefore, I just have to rely so much on information or what I have read myself. But to actualize it, how to do it, I am sorry, I will fall short of that, if that is your expectation. But there are very important legal issues that you have to realize insofar as safety guidelines. So, there are two, although sabi lang sa akin ng CEAP is online. Pero what if suddenly face-to-face classes are allowed? Yan lang ang tatalakayin ko. Ano dapat ang gawin ninyo? Dito, ang issue dito, pag inalaw ang face-to-face, okay, is more on, of course, preventive, spreading, helping, but also the issue, the ability of the school. So let's talk about while online. All right. Obviously, slide please. While online, slide please. Next slide. I think this is known. This is obvious. Vulnerability to risk and harms, including misuse of their private information, access to harmful content, and cyberbullying. This is very true. That's why you have to really be careful about what you ask your children to upload, to share. Because I will relate this to one decision by the Supreme Court regarding the nature now of information, of data, of pictures, of visuals that are uploaded, whether they are still private or already public. Because if they are private, then they would still be protected by the law on privacy. But if they are not, then that's it. So you have therefore to be careful. Okay, so I think if you go through the website of UNICEF, they suggest this. Rundown lang po ito. Kasi sabi ko nga, the specific way that is to be achieved is something that an expert would just have to teach you. All right, slide please. So, UNESCO recommends effective practice to benefit and protect children. Protect children from harm online. Safeguard children's privacy. Yan. Teach digital literacy to keep children informed. Put children at the center of the digital policy of the school. So in formulating your own policies that you need to adopt in regard to this new way by which we are to deliver our education, always remember the best interest of the child. Okay? And that is what is really expected of a good mother or a good father of a family. Not your interest, but the best interest of the child. Now, in relation to this, take note of the second. Safeguard the children's privacy and identities online. It's very important to you to know the Supreme Court declaration. In the case of Vivares versus St. Therese College, slide please. Please note, slide please. Okay. If adopted, a United States case Supreme Court declaration. Tignan ninyo ang sinabi ng Supreme Court quoting the U.S. Supreme Court. More open to the method of transmission is, the less privacy one can reasonably expect. Messages sent to the public at large in the chat room or email that is forwarded from correspondent to correspondent loses any semblance of privacy. Take note, loses any semblance of privacy. Further, slide please. Another quotation from another Supreme Court decision. A person who places a photograph on the internet precisely intends to forsake and renounce all privacy rights to such imagery. And finally, sabi ng Supreme Court, dito sa Vivares case, Facebook, slide please, sabing ganon, that the photos, Facebook posting, that the photos are viewable friends only, sabihin yan, does not necessarily bolster the petitioner's contention that they are private. What am I trying to point out here? There is the law on privacy. Privacy. I think the ano ba yung Privacy Data Act and so on. Ang dami-daming yan. But because of these declarations, you can no longer insist on the protection of those laws to prohibit or prevent strangers or third persons from utilizing the information, the data, the pictures that you have then posted online social network, because they are no longer private but public. So be careful with what your children posts, what your children show in the internet. Because pag yan ginamit ng third party at gusto ninyong lang pigilin, ay hindi. Mayroon ngayong action na tinatag special civil action na writ of habeas data. It will not be granted. Ang writ of habeas data, as I understand it, okay, it will stop the third person from using the data, the information, the pictures that they have acquired from this to protect the privacy of the owners. Pero nga, pag linagay mo na dyan, yan ang essence ng decision. You can no longer use that special access. You can no longer ask the authorities to prevent that third person from using it. Expose na yun ang mga anak ninyo. So you have to therefore adapt rules in this regard. Hence, so, what is the Supreme Court said? Hence, sige po, slide please. Slide please. Gusto tayo. Alright. It is well to emphasize point that setting a post or profile details privacy to friends is no assurance that it can no longer be viewed by other users who is not paid friends with the source content. So, risk, ano ang sinabi ng Supreme Court? Take note so that you always have this in mind in adopting your own safeguard policies for your children in using online education. Slide please. Ang sinabing ganon, slide please. Online social network use should be aware the risk that they expose themselves to whenever they engage. Accordingly, they should be cautious enough to control the children's privacy and to exercise sound discretion regarding how much information should themselves be willing to give up. As I have said, that there is no specific way that I could just to teach you through this webinar how to do it. But be aware so that when you contact or get in touch with experts to tell you, this should always be your concern. Interest of the children. This addition, pero let's just go through this because I want to have that opportunity to have an interaction with some of you. So, bilisan na lang natin ito. Pag face-to-face, what if suddenly government allows face-to-face? Some of you are raring to jump into that. So, slide please. So, conditions of face-to-face. So, ayan. Okay. So, mag-face-to-face na kayo kanila. Ayan. Nagsana. As a matter of fact, there are so many schools who are asking me, pwede ba sila mag-face-to-face na? Paano kung magka-COVID na estudyante o teacher? Kami ba ang liable dyan? Okay. Now, once if you are going and it is allowed, by the way, it is not allowed at the moment yet. All you have to do, I will not go through it because this is very important. All right. Slide, please. Okay. We'll just go through this. All right. DepEd number 14, series of 2020, June 25. This is a document you have, you should know to have in hand and to follow strictly. So, if I may go through it, ayan, objectives of DepEd, kumuha na lang po kayo ng kopya niyan. I will not discuss them anymore to you anyway. It is not really part of my topic. But what is important, why am I now including this in my lecture? You have to comply with these rules. Okay, so please go through it. Slide, please. Slide. Slide. Alright. So, face to face. Ayan. So, kailangan yan. So, slide, please. So, hindi pa pwede. Alright. Oh. So, sa January pa lang. O, slide, please. So, tandaan niya yan, ha. O, slide, please. Sige. Okay. O, limited, localized. O, slide, please. May mga dapat coordination kayo. O, stringent health standards. O, dapat sundin niyo yan. No mask, no entry. O, slide, please. Slide, please. Alright. O, ayan. Ayan. So, just go through them. Sayap will be kind enough. Pero, makukuha nyo naman yan sa... pero pag tinatamad kayo, dahil ang haba nun, yan, bullet points, mas madali. Slide, please. Go on. Okay. Slide, please. All right. And pilot. Okay, that's it. Now, what is the point here? Do you have to follow this? Yes. Issue. What if we go on to face-to-face and then a teacher, a student, COVID, infected by COVID, in school, proven na in school nanggaling. Can you be held liable? Now, the basic principle here is that you must have applied due diligence. And to show proof of you having adopted due diligence, the first thing that the government agencies will now try to determine whether you strictly complied with the rules. Okay? Because what I'm trying to point out, these rules obviously are to prevent and to safeguard. They are formulated for the purpose of safeguarding the health and to prevent the spread by government. Whether you agree with it or not, like Trump does not agree with mask. You know how ridiculous? So if you also do not agree with mask, but because the government said you must wear mask, you have to follow it. Because if it is found that you were remiss or worse, did not adopt strictly this, and there is a COVID case that occurred in the school, that is when liability attaches. But if you are able to show due diligence, proof that you have strictly adhered to these rules, a matter of fact, you even went over it. Grabe na! Nag-extend ka pa, hindi lang mask. Linagyan yung parang mosquitero, yung bawat bata, para ng mga astronaut. And still, a COVID case happened in the school. I am assuring you, you will not be held liable. What I'm trying to point out, even the most stringent precautions, procedures, requirements will not deter the possibility of still the risk of a COVID infection. Kaya ang issue dito is liability ng school. So that's the answer. Pag nagka-COVID ang bata dito sa school, pag ang teacher ko nagka-COVID dito nakuha sa school, can the school be liable? Answer, if you were negligent in not having adopted this requirements of the government, there is liability. But if you have shown proof of due diligence, of precautions that even exceed what is expected to by the law, no liability. I think that is, but before end, you know, we always ask the question. I think some of my good friends have been listening to me nung wala pang COVID na libre pa ang aking laway. Talaga, ako siguro ang number one na hindi pwede mag-lecture. Naalala ninyo? Eh, di ba, first two rows nga, hindi ko pinaupuan dahil grabe siguro ang infection ko. But we always ask this question, di ba? Lalo na pagdating sa discipline ng students. Slide, please. Ang tanong dyan is, Slide please. What is the problem of children these days? Bakit ko nabanggit ito? Slide please. Alright. Ito ang madalas marinig. The children of today are too much in love with luxury. They have detestable manner, ayan. Flaunt authority and have no respect for elders anymore. Siguro, ang iba sa inyo dyan, tumatanong, oo nga, ganun nga. They no longer rise when their parents or teachers enter the room. Yan. So, respect lang yan. Sana maibalik nyo yan. Di ba? Yung yan ngayon, kayo, pag ganun, yan daw ang bagbati ngayon. Tapos sabi pa nitong author, I can only fear what kind of awful creatures they will be when they grow up. Okay? Do you agree with that? Oh, raise your hands. Wala pala akong kausap yung TV pala. Do you agree with that? Siguro sabihin, oo nga, ganun mga klase nga. Pero alam niyo po kung sino nagsabi niyan. Slide, please. You know who said that? That was Socrates. He wrote that way back in 399 BC. What is the message? They have not changed. Children have not changed. From the time of Socrates to present, they are still children. The only difference is how we may have nurtured them, my dear educators. How we have loved them. How we have cared for them. That is the reason why you will see that they are different from you. It is because not of them, but you, the educator. Last note. I know CAP themselves, CAP itself and others, okay, slide please, have all been wondering. Ito talaga, medyo may tama talaga si attorney. They've been asking, why? Why is that the picture that you post? I wanted to relay a message. The message is simply that. Slide, please. Lalo na ngayon sa online classes or in face-to-face, please, in teaching must be meaningful and impactful. You must be able to inspire. You are not just expected a teacher who talks, who explains, or demonstrates. You must be a great teacher who inspires. And you must do all those, what you call now, means, different ways to attract them to you. Lalo na malayo. Do all those outrageous acts that one way or the other, you know, will make a meaning, an impact, and will always remember the point that you are setting. That's exactly why I showed it. I actually was trying to imitate Ernesto de la Cruz, the favorite movie of my first grandson, who because of what I did, show him. We'll never forget it. Ernesto de la Cruz in the movie Coco. If you need to wear this ridiculous costumes, just like I do, you're to stress the point to them. Remember, to teach is not just to teach the mind, but more important for a Catholic institution is to touch the heart. Thank you. You did enjoy. I hope you learned. Salamat po sa inyo. Did I cover?
Sige. So I think many of us will agree that that was one of the most dynamic and passionate presentations we have
Thank you,
experienced
Alan.
in this time of COVID. No? Virtual palakpak naman po, no, for the amazing presentation lecture of Attorney Ulan. No? But it is not over yet. So we are now in the question and answer portion of this webinar. We will have until 15 for this session before close. No? Again, before I proceed, let me again give a few answers going. You may post your questions at the comment section of this Facebook page, and we will be asking these questions during the question and answer portion. Secondly, please be informed that you will receive the certificate of attendance only upon completion of the evaluation form, and the link will be posted in the comment section only until today, 2 p.m. today, July 23. We encourage you to answer the evaluation form, and you will receive your certificate of attendance via email. So please make sure that you write down both your names and email addresses accurately. We will continue. Just continue to post your questions. We will read it. And then finally, for those asking for the presentation, no? So again, you can rewatch the video in the live streaming, and the uploaded in the SEA website at www.ph. Ayan. So I guess, Attorney Ulan, ready na po tayo. Pwede na tayo dumiretso sa question and answer portion natin. No? So madami na po tayo pag-usapan. Of course, complicated pa yung online world, especially in the world of disciplining, values formation, especially from a distance. No? May mga ilan pong questions na unahin ko po muna, and this has to do with parental dealing with parents. I guess the first one daw, is it possible daw magbigay ng sanction sa parents? No? So for example, a parent who harasses a teacher outside the premises, no? Is that something, it might happen, but what can schools do when that happens po? No?
So, yes, obviously. I mentioned the case of Yap Chinfa. That is the case where the Supreme Court really also considered that parents are subject to what you call disciplinary sanctions also of schools. Very few lawyers do know this. Sometimes they will always tell you that once you charge a parent of a misconduct that emanates from the school administration, they will say the school does not have any jurisdiction or authority to act on such a conduct of a parent. But that is not true. Particularly if misconduct that is committed by a parent inside the campus or against the community, the schools may impose sanctions on them. The most common, of course, for example, merong isang very common in parking areas in big campuses, Catholic campuses, nagkakagulo sa parking area. May mga magulang diyan na hindi sinusunod yung parking yan at pinapitan, minumura yung mga security guard, dinalait yung administration, nagbabayad daw. Now, the question is, can they be the subject of sanctions? Yes. So what can you ask them to do? Hey, ask them to pick up pieces of paper or to push up. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. The most common, you see, as parents, they do have also rights, privileges. You divest them of these rights and privileges. Say, insofar as being able to participate in certain activities that they expect to be invited, like commencement exercises, unite them, or even to enter the campus. These are the most effective means of imposing sanctions on parents who, one way or the other, disregards all these rules and regulations. Cannot be the basis a sanction imposed on the child. Hindi pwede yan. There is only one case, instance, extreme naman na talaga, where because of the fault of the parents, in regard to that relationship a group of parents had with the administration na talagang hindi na acceptable, no longer good for the school atmosphere, that the children themselves had also to suffer, hindi na rin i-admit. Pero ang punto ko dyan is, generally, the fault of the parents cannot be the basis for a sanction of the school against the child. Kaya may sakit kang magulang, madalas nagrereklamo sa tuition, madalas late, o hindi naman. So, can you now refuse the admission of the child? You cannot do that. Okay?
Thank you, attorney. This is an interesting question. Some to a certain extent may related to Pusha, no? What if a parent's corporal punishment in front of the computer while online? So nag-online classes estudyante, tapos nag-corporal punishment, baka sinapak, etc. What should the teacher do? And then does the teacher have the duty to report to the authority? Parang ganun yung...
Hindi, I am not certain about the procedure, but it is provided for, I think, that the teacher should make an immediate report of the incident with the DSW welfare code. It is only mandatory upon the public school teachers. But maybe by analogy, as this would involve the interest of the child, safety, security, health, the teacher or the school itself must take that initiative. It is very important because I have said each child must be considered as your own, taking into what we call the concept of being the best interest of the child itself. But insofar as the legal responsibility is concerned, it would now depend maybe on the existing rules. If the school provides for such, which I suggest should be, then the neglect of a teacher who may not have acted on it promptly could be the subject again of a neglect of responsibility.
Okay. Related, I guess, again, a connected question. No? Parang how do we handle parents who do not believe in formal sanctions, but insist on punitive sanctions? So in a sense, how does a school convince the parents that, our goal is formation, etc., but they insist on punitive sanctions?
Well, that is really the problem here, Carlo, because admittedly there are parents who really are not that concerned with the children's education and formation. That is the reason was portion of my lecture, the legal basis, the constitutional duty. Na it is a matter of a law. Okay. And maybe this is where we come in to insist on such deprivation, needs of children, which include formation, tantamount to child abuse. So it could be insisted on and even give rise to certain aspects of parents now again being themselves sanctioned by denying them certain privileges that they should have enjoyed as a parent of child in your school. So continuous reminder of this sort, especially those parents who are into activities that will deprive or prevent or deny them from having time sufficient enough to oversee the formation and even the education of the children, there has to be insistence. Yun lang, and of course, even maybe to the extent of threats na, yan, ang anak mo, yan, siguro naman, they will recognize that. Dahil pinapabayaan mo, ayan, nahuli namin, nagsumbong sa amin, they have been doing acts or omission that are not in accord. So we will just have to sanction them. And the sanction may entail, no longer admission, readmission, or even, a suspension. Kasi pwede mo pa naman suspend eh. Huwag mong ipapasok. That's the reason why I have always said that passive discipline is not sufficient. Many would disagree, but I still believe that to some extent, the imposition of certain sanctions to really impose discipline should still be adapted. So yeah, pag sabihin nyo, nahuli po, and that is maybe the time that their eyes would be open, and they would therefore just have to involve themselves. Kasi pwede rin isumbong, kabastusan ng ilalagi kasi di pintuan, di sinusupervise. So yun, the school now will have to take action on that.
Yeah. There was a concern brought here actually. Sabi po nila, ito pa kay Ma'am Guadalupe. Sabi niya, speaking of discipline, sir, maraming bata daw so for example, may disciplinary issues yung mga bata, pero yung mga ibang admin, takot daw i-disiplina yung mga bata, especially kung influential. yung tatay, yung magulang, comes from a prominent family, etc. So I don't know if you have advice on how the administration.
Well, that is exactly maybe the reason why there is in Congress, I think you have heard about it. I do not know what stage it is at the moment, where it would exempt the public school teachers and hopefully would include the private school teachers from liability of child abuse in cases of acts in relation to discipline. Because the truth of the matter really, the DepEd, yung pinakita ko kanina sa inyo, the DepEd Order number 40 expanded the concept of corporal punishment. Kaya siguro nagulat kayo kanina, why am I talking about corporal punishment when I will be concerned as to what is to be done in online? Now, because the general concept of corporal punishment is physical contact to inflict pain. But I pointed out to you that the DepEd order expanded that will now also include even verbal, gestural, all of which may be committed online. And yun na nga lahat na lang ng mataasan mo ng konting boses ang bata, mapagsabihan mo ng konti na hindi ka nais-nais sa magulang, titirahin ka na ngayon ng child abuse, which is very difficult because it may entail a criminal action. But it's really very difficult to prove child abuse. But as I have said, because of how easy it is for influential parents, because of course their money, to drag teachers to a criminal or even civil case, teachers now are hesitant. We do have several cases pending with our the law office involving child abuses. And I tell you how much burden it has been for the teacher accused. And I can even tell you that there is no basis at all. It's just because, the parents did not like how the children was dealt with, that you see, parang bawi, kinasuhan. I could relate several cases, but of course, may makakilala eh. Pang maakusahan. So, uh, that's that's the teachers should really be careful about these matters of discipline. But yun na nga, they cannot excuse themselves from not performing this duty because they are afraid. They really have to accept this as part of their responsibility.
Sige po. Thank you, thank you. I guess we'll jump a bit more from the parents and then go into, I guess, student disciplinary actions, no, attorney. There was there's a comment, no, by one of our audience. And tanong po nila, yung mga suggestions po natin in terms of sanctions, for example, to students, can it be applied to tertiary level students, no? So, for example, students have their own mindset already or opinions when it comes to homosexuality. It's accepted by by maybe young people today, etc. And for a school to impose that this is not allowed or this is not tolerated, to what extent is that going to be
Yes,
applied?
yes, Carlo. Definitely. Because as I have made mention, when you join a school, you are joining a community. And you will understand that in a community, there are certain rules and regulations. If you do not like the rules and regulations or you cannot adhere to them, you are always free not to join. This is precisely why I stress the need for you, for the schools to make clear that these are what you call now our rules and regulations, our standard of conduct, morality, decency. We do not agree with and cannot embrace any other act or omission that runs counters to these standards. So, if you do not want to be restrained from your right to pursue happiness, by being involved in several what you call now sexual affairs for that matter, as long as you are single and the people you deal in that aspect also are single, you live in with them, you trans there is no problem with that in the secular aspect. Go to a state college or a public school or a secular school, but you cannot insist to be a member of a Catholic community. That is not reflective of who you must be, which is the goal of the Catholic school. Even in college, that's definitely. That is precisely what I have been stressing to certain Catholic universities. Sometimes, huwag naman sana masasahan yung tinatamaan, pero great issue. Are you still Catholic? Well, of course, we do have the same. But ano kasi, sarado Catholic talaga. And I really insist on this. My children and to others who would want to be with me in this regard. Not make excuses that because everybody is doing, because it's allowed in accordance with secular standard, then I have the right. Yes, the right. We have the right to choose the school. If you want that to be exercised, if you want to enjoy it, and your right to pursue is not be curtailed, do not join me. So it's applicable to college students, even insofar as cross-dressing is concerned. They always insist on freedom of expression. But if a school provides clearly, that is also the reason why maybe another suggestion, even in the online classes, the teacher should also observe the attire of the children, insist on still using uniform. The legal basis for uniform, threefold yan. One, identity. Two is, of course, security. And three is to also the children the standard of decency that they must adhere to the way they appear. Insist talaga yan ng mga Catholic schools, lalo na pagdating sa basic education. When you face me in here now, send it now on clothing. Hindi na hindi ko nga kanina, kami nakahubad pa dyan. So, insist. If ever, pati pantalon, pati suot. I mean, it's a matter of you insisting that these little things taken by many for granted is important in regard to really formation. The rules need to be stressed as important duty.
So I guess on that side, no, like the students have to hear that when they do enter into a school, there is some form of contract made between them.
Yeah.
And okay, sige po. This is another, I guess one of another contentious issue, and I think it'll be interesting to get your perspective on this, Attorney Olan. So ang tanong po ni Mang Guadalupe, how do we deal with married who are fond of having relationships with their friends? Medyo putok to ngayon sa social media, di ba, where teachers who are adults are actually involving themselves, right? Affairs of students, into relationships, inappropriate conversations, no? So that's one. And then I guess the second one is, what if the student is above 21? No? Magiging liable po ba yung teacher kung magkaroon sila ng relationship, no? Yeah.
Well, in the first case, I believe then the school administrators' duty is to provide for guidelines for teachers in how they are to deal with their students. I know of one college, Catholic college, that prohibits teachers from directly getting in touch with their students through social media. May prohibition texting or calling. So any dealings with the students, even in college, should be caused through the administration. Now, that may be difficult. That is what the school requires. And it is to avoid instances of sexual harassment or what you call now inappropriate relationship with them. So it is a matter for the school to make clear to these teachers that there are certain means and ways of communicating or relating to the children that should be prohibited or limited. Because again, without the specific, rules for them to know, getting in touch or texting students would not be considered as something that is abhorrent and subject to disciplinary action. So the suggestion is formulate rules, just like what I mentioned, the college where it prohibits direct contact. Okay? I text my students. I consider them my children, even if they are law students. But I text them so much, encouraging, even love notes. I admit there. I deal with them one way or the other because it's balancing act of teacher, both as a instructor and at the same time as a parent, which is what is required because as parents, you need to show compassion. You need to show, and communication with them will be one way of establishing yes. So parang it's just a balance is still proper, what is right, is still within the scope of which is accepted by virtue of the standard of decency and conduct of the school itself. Now, in so far as the second question is concerned, you know, funny thing is, if that was prohibited, a teacher falling in love with a student, it could be a ground for separation. I could have been the first person to be separated by the school where I was then teaching. Because the best thing that I did in my almost over 30 years of teaching was to bring home one of my students. Now I say it, to bring home my student who is now the mother of my 5 beautiful children. so, so no, the thing is, there is a case already declared by the Supreme Court that falling in love is not a subject to a misconduct against teachers. In the case of Chua Kuwa, I think, versus Court of Appeals, ang kwento dito, here is a teacher, female teacher, who was, I think, 15 years senior to her fourth year graduating student, high school, fell in love, nagka-inlaban sila, they got married. So, the school administration found it to be unacceptable. So, the teacher was separated. But sabi ng Supreme Court, naku, diyan yung, it was quoted by the Supreme Court, it just now to prove the truism of the phrase that love has reasons that reasons itself do not know. Now, this decision of the Supreme Court could apply above, must be 18 or above. And number two, that both the teacher and the student would have all the qualifications and none of the disqualifications to enter into a